Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sanjna. If you're new here, I talk all things Australian personal finance. I talk about cryptocurrency, real estate, NFTs, budgeting, and as of recent, I've delved into the world of stocks and ETFs. So if that's something of interest to you, please do subscribe to my channel down below and let's get started on today's video. As you can tell by the title of today's video, I want to take you through step by step on how you can purchase an investment property here in Australia, especially if it is your first time and you're not entirely sure about the process and what to do. I want to share with you my experience, my learnings, and the typical process of purchasing specifically in New South Wales. So let's get started. So just to give you guys a bit of context, if you're new to my channel, I have 3 investment properties. I purchased my first investment property in early 2020, and then late 2020, I purchased my second and third investment property by leveraging the funds from my first property, extracting that equity to then purchase my second and third. But I'm not going to talk about my second and third investment property here today. If you do want to see a video on that, then definitely let me know by clicking the thumbs up button down below, and I'll be more than happy to do that. We're going to talk about the first investment property, the purchasing process, etc. Firstly, why did I decide to get involved in real estate? So the reason was because at the time I purchased my first investment property and my second, I was actually working at a 9-to-5 job, and I knew that working at a 9-to-5 job would not be stable enough for me. That was my only income source, so I wanted to make sure that I was diversifying my portfolio, and I always thought that real estate was a safe bet. We always see real estate appreciating by 30-40% each year, and the knowledge has been passed down from generation to generation to invest into real estate. So that's why I decided to do that. I wanted to make sure I also had some passive income as well, because the properties that I did actually purchase, they actually were positively cash flowed, so I definitely had some passive income there. I also thought that there was no point of putting my money into a bank account and have my money sitting in a savings account, because that was only going to earn me about 1% at the time. So putting my money there would just defeat the purpose, because inflation, as we all know, is always going to eat away at our money, and our money is not going to grow faster than the rate of inflation. So to purchase my first investment property here in Australia, I made sure that I had a deposit of about $30,000. This was the money that I was going to put away towards my first investment property. A lot of you guys may be thinking that's very cheap. Now, mind you, this is also 2 years ago now, exactly, that I made this purchase. But not only that, I actually decided to purchase in regional Australia. I wanted to get into the market ASAP and not wait around for a property in the city or Sydney metropolitan area, because I know that's very expensive. And you guys know how expensive it is as well. So I was young, I didn't really need to move into my dream house as of yet, so I decided to purchase interstate and regionally as well, because that's all my money could really afford to buy at the time. And my plan is to accumulate more investment properties so that when it does come time for me to purchase my dream house, or build my dream house rather, I can sell off a few of those investments and comfortably build that house and not have to worry about paying a large mortgage at an older age. So let's get talking about the property acquisition process specifically for Australia. Now, towards the end of the video, I will also mention the costs involved for purchasing my first property, so stay tuned until the end. The first step to purchasing your first investment property, now of course this is non-financial advice, the process that I personally went through was to speak to a mortgage broker or a lender at a bank. You want to speak to them to get an idea of where your financial situation is at, how much is your borrowing capacity, can you even borrow, what's your serviceability like, and they will assess your financial situation to see whether you are fit enough and able to purchase an investment. Based off their assessment, they'll let you know how much you can actually purchase, and then how much your deposit will be, how much your LMI will be. LMI is lender's mortgage insurance. Now, typically people tend to deposit about 20% of the purchase price, but personally for me, because at the time I was working at a bank, I was actually exempted from having to pay 20%. I could get away with 10%, and usually if it's under 20% deposit, you need to pay LMI, which is lender's mortgage insurance. insurance, and that is an insurance just for the bank to know that you are not going to, default on the property, and it's just insurance for them. So I was able to put a 10% deposit and not have to pay LMI. They also let you know for a specific area what the stamp duty would be. So stamp duty is essentially a tax obviously paid to the government at the settlement time of the property, and obviously there are also legal costs involved as well, so you need to take into account that. So once you've spoken to the bank or a mortgage broker, a lender, you may have a fair idea of how much you can actually purchase. Now, the second step is to now locate the property. You've got two choices here. Two choices in that you can speak to a buyer's agent. A buyer's agent is someone that can do the research for you. They're a professional in their field, and they really just get the job done and find a property that's suited to your financial situation. Or the second option is that you can actually do the research yourself and find a property for yourself. But there is obviously a lot of risk involved in that, and that is not the step that I personally took. I resorted to a buyer's agent because I honestly don't have the time to research for my own property, to find a property in God knows what location. I don't know what to look for. I'm not sure if the property would be worth it and whether it's actually a good investment in the long term. So I went to my partner, who is a buyer's agent. If you're interested, I'll leave his details down in the description box below. This is non-biased. You have to do your own research and make the decision for yourself, do your own due diligence. I don't want to obviously influence your decision, but I went with my partner for obvious reasons, and his company would do all the research for me. So essentially what they do is for new clients, they would sit down with them, do a strategy session, see where their financial situation is at, and then find a property based on their finances. I just think that this was the best decision for myself because I know a lot of people who have done their own research and have actually been burnt by their decisions and have actually regretted doing their own research. So this is completely up to you. Just be wary that there is also a buyer's agency fee involved as well, and this generally costs about $15,000 depending on who you go with. So I think personally for me, some may think it's a large amount, but is $15,000 a lot in the grand scheme of things? I personally don't think so, because I know a lot of people who have actually lost hundreds and thousands of dollars by making the wrong investment. So I think you're already putting so much money aside for an investment property. Putting an extra $15,000 is really not going to hurt your pocket that much. The third step is, after you've located your property, to go back to your broker or your lender and let them know you want to apply for a loan. They will then provide you with a conditional approval, looking obviously at your personal finances, your income, your pay slips, your expenses, and checking your serviceability. Only then will you be able to get the unconditional approval, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. So the conditional approval will usually take about 1 to 2 weeks, and during this time as well, you're able to put down a holding deposit on the property that you want to purchase, and that's usually about 0.25% of the purchase price. And this is just to assure you that the owner will not actually sell that property to anyone else. Next step in the process is to get a conveyancer involved. You want to make sure you've got someone that knows what they're doing in terms of the property space. So they will write up a contract, make sure it's legally binding so there's no surprises. Also in this contract, you will also have a cooling off period as well. The cooling off is generally for times where you want to get your building and test reports done to make sure the property is fit for purpose. And this is also a time for you to get your unconditional approval as well. The next step of the process is to do your PEST and building checks. Now, these checks are conducted by third parties. It's outsourced. You need to make sure you get someone, but if you're with a buyer's agent, they can organize this all for you. So you'll need to find someone that's in the area that can go in and check for pests in the building, whether there's going to be termites, and also get a building report done as well. So this is a contractor or someone external who goes into the property, takes photos, has a look at all of the nooks and crannies of the house, and compiles that into a report and presents that back to you and lets you know whether that property is actually fit and good enough for you to actually purchase, and then you can go ahead and make your decision. It's just an extra peace of mind. And the deposit that you have paid, the holding deposit, if the pest and building reports don't come back clean, you're able to get that holding deposit back because this is all done within the cooling off period. Also, if the pest and building reports don't come back clean, you're able to also generate some quotes and see how much it might cost to get those things fixed, if that's worth your time and money. Moving on to the next step, this is unconditional approval. approval. Once all the checks and balances have been complete, you're able to then get your unconditional approval from the bank. The bank may request some updated pay slips from the time that you initiated this whole conversation with them. Things may have changed and your circumstance may have changed. So they may request for additional pay slips, more updated bank statements, expenses, things like that. And then based on that assessment, they will then give you a home loan. And then this is an unconditional investment loan. After this has all been completed, you're up to the final step of the process, which is settlement. So settlement can occur about 4 to 6 weeks after you get your unconditional approval. And this is a time where then the contracts are exchanged. The remainder of the deposit is also paid to the other party. Settlement is usually a time where the bank can get their paperwork all together. They then liaise with the conveyancer and then the property agency as well and the owners to make sure that everything is all ready and good to go for settlement. This is the exchange of contracts, and this is where you get your titles and then the full transfer to your name. So all in all, that's the process here in Australia as to what you can really expect to see as part of the property purchasing process. And this is a process that I have personally gone through, and I know this inside out because my partner is a buyer's agent. So let's move on to the costs involved of purchasing your first investment property. Now, this obviously depends on your financial situation, how much you're willing to put down, and obviously the supply around in the market as well. Obviously, when I purchased my first investment, the market was down. It was just pre-pandemic and the sentiment was very negative. Market was down and people were really not looking at property investing. So I was able to actually secure a great deal. So the purchase price was about $237,000. The weekly rent at the time was about $260, but that has since increased and it is now $300 per week. The deposit that I paid was obviously 10% of the purchase price, which was $23,700. LMI, the lender's mortgage insurance, I didn't have to pay. It was $0 because I used to work at a bank. Stamp duty was calculated at the time as $7,415. The conveyancer cost me about $886. The PEST and building reports combined were about $520. So the total cost involved for my first investment was $32,521. Now, this is the entire cost that was incurred by myself. And of course, if you do engage with the buyer's agent, you need to factor in the costs for that as well. So a few of the learnings that I wanted to share with you that I've actually gained from my years of property investing, and that is to definitely invest in a buyer's agent. I know it may seem costly, but think about it. You're actually purchasing a house, and that in itself is already expensive, and putting an extra couple $1,000s alongside that to make sure that your investment property is bulletproof and is actually going to generate a return for you in the long term, I think it's definitely worthwhile. I know personally for my investment property, I had purchased it for $237,000. It is now worth $340,000 in today's time. So as we can see, by investing an extra couple $1,000s, the result at the end is definitely worth it. The second learning I had, and it's probably what you guys are thinking, is that why did I jump so quickly into the property market with only $30,000? The reason for that is because I didn't want my money sitting around in my savings account, because I know that that was only going to earn me about 2% at maximum, and that's really not a good use of my money, because we all know with inflation, the purchasing power of your dollar decreases over time. Of course, now you may not be able to find properties that are that cheap, even in regional areas, but once you know that you can actually enter the market, I would highly encourage that you do that, because your money sitting in a savings account is really not doing you any good. Non-financial advice, of course. And lastly, this is actually for the next step of the purchasing process, which is after you've bought your first investment property to then purchase your second and third one. Like I did, I was able to leverage that bank debt, and I think it's very important to think about it in a way that bank debt is free money, essentially. And basically what I have done is I've extracted the equity from my first investment property. Because that has actually appreciated in value, I was able to take out that money and then purchase my second and third. And I think that's a great way of doing it. A lot of people think that, you know, they want to pay down their mortgages and bring that down to reduce debt. But why? If you can purchase multiple properties and have them appreciating over the years, that's better off for you, instead of you paying paying down at something, which I don't see the point of doing right now. So if you'd like to see a video on my property purchasing experience for my second and third investment property, then please give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to follow me over on my Instagram and my TikTok account, Success by Sanjna, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Thanks guys.